You think because
Oh,
I
okay.
have my situation, with Shayla and my soon-to-be ex-wife, you know, you think I'm like weak, soft, but man, I've always been about that money. See, you did it the other way. You about them women first.
Hold up, bro. I'm about that paper. Don't.
No,
I
no,
ain't
no, no,
about
no,
no
no, no, no,
women.
no, 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 no.
As much as we talk about Anthony, the one thing we're sure of, even though we ask what kind of businessman is he, and we make jokes at it, the truth is he's verified. I mean, we can kind of concur together that he's verified show-wise, because he has the money, he has the car, he has the businesses, he has shown the multiple business partners, we've seen him on business trips. And so that's fine. And I feel like when it comes to the real world, that's about the same way. We should see verifications of your businesses. Gentlemen who are out there who are trying to discredit others without even doing any amount of research at all. And I find it to be very disgusting. But hey, let's get into the content. So, for starters, this is credentialing. All right, if you ask O'Neill, who are you to be talking on this topic? Well, fine. I can pull up a credential. O'Neill is not a doctor. No, O'Neill is not a doctor at all. What is O'Neill? Well, there it is. My title is actually right on the screen, which is an associate clinical social worker. So I have a license. So really and truly, if you wanted to look me up, I would exist.
When somebody say Dr. Bryant, it irks me. Where's her colleagues? Where's your doctor at?
The way y'all
All right, so hold on. Before we get into this gentleman who is the public, offender, Corey was one of those who called out Dr. Cheyenne Bryant from before, and he was right for doing so. He asked the question, say, where are your colleagues? Where are your credentials? Because generally, anyone who is a doctor is going to want to state their credentials and is going to want to state where the credential is from so people can check it out. It's like your medical doctor. If you were to look on your medical doctor's card, you'd see a bunch of credentials on there and a license number. Now, if you were to plug that license number in, it'll probably pull him up somewhere to say if his license is, still active, or if the license is dormant, or the license has been taken away. These are things that other races have been doing since the dawn of time. This is not hard for us to do. But this gentleman that's about to come on our screen is going to attack another gentleman's credentials. Why? Because I guess because he's a man and he doesn't like his talking points. That's where we are these days.
after Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, the way y'all question Dr. Cheyenne Bryant credentials, and the way y'all not saying nothing about this dude, this therapist, this so-called therapist, psychologist, whatever, is crazy to me. It's really crazy. Let me see the credentials at this point. I need to see the credentials.
Okay, so here are the credentials. So one of the most credentialed pages for a psychologist or a therapist or anyone at all is Psychology Today. Because to get on Psychology Today, for them to actually have you advertise on the platform, you have to be licensed. This Jeffre St. James guy, okay, who that's what this discussion is about, is actually a licensed professional counselor. So he's an LPC, that's what we call it in the field. So he's licensed to counsel, he's licensed to give levels of therapy. Now, of course, that probably would fall underneath an LCSW, which is a licensed clinical social worker. That's probably going to be a license above that license. But nonetheless, he is credentialed, and as you can see, his credentials are there. If you were to look for his license number, you should be able to plug that in and find out exactly, where is he licensed, who is licensed him, how long his license is there for.
Because every time he opens his mouth, he just sounds like a man. He just sounds like he doesn't sound like he knows he understands anything about psychology. He doesn't I'm not a by trade psychologist or anything like that. My wife is a psychologist, but that doesn't make me one. I live with a psychologist. I talk to a psychologist all day, every day, and I have been. And she, you know what I mean? Like, she's been one for a long time, but that doesn't make me one. But I can tell you one thing: she talks completely different about human behaviors and about society and about the socialization of human beings than this man does.
All right, so before he even gets anywhere else, let me just state to you as well too, because the field is such a subjective field. In other words, different people are going to have different point of views because there are not a bunch of solid concrete posts. In other words, things aren't 1-2, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of subjectivity to it because there's a lot of that, and you have to be using objective arguments to kind of prove your point. Then yes, you can have different people have multiple perspectives. because that's just how it is. One person could see, the what you call it now, a schizophrenic a diagnosis different from another person saying, no, I don't think it's schizophrenia because of this and because of that. You can have those things. You can have those arguments in the space of all of this. But this gentleman is commenting on this from whatever he feels that his wife, displays, and is using his wife as a marker for all different psychologists. So because this gentleman, as he's mentioning, which is, Jeffre St. James, speaks a little different from this man's wife, which is a public offender. Apparently, he doesn't know what he's talking about, which is weird. But hey, let's keep going.
And talks about it the same way a stereotypical ignorant red pill man talks about it.
Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So
the reason why I showed you that is because I wanted to actually make sure that you are aware of what this thing about red pill is. Red pill is from that movie, the Matrix. And the Matrix had that scene in there where Neo had a choice between the red pill and the blue pill. The red pill was for him to see the truth. The blue pill was for him to keep doing exactly what he was doing. So every time people come up with these things and talk about red pill content creators, that's what you're really talking about. You're just getting the truth. I'm just giving you a truth as to what I'm seeing. I'm calling it a chicken. It's a chicken, it's a chicken. If it's a mouse, it's a mouse. If it's a cat, it's a cat. If it's a rat, it's a rat. I'm not doing anything different, but just giving you exactly what it is at that point in time.
So at this point, I got to start to call into question this man's credentials, because I don't actually believe he has any at this point.
Again, I've shown his credentials on psychology today.
Years. You been his work? You still his work?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. I know what's going on now. I'm about to.
So if you're not familiar with Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is a woman who says she has a doctorate. Number one, I can't verify the doctorate. That's number one. I couldn't verify it at the point in time. But that's exactly what it is. And so she's supposed to be providing guidance within relationships and all of that. And she has very female and, feminist kind of talking points, which none is wrong with being a feminist. The previous feminist was, when women couldn't vote and women couldn't do certain things, and that's exactly what it was for. The new feminist movement is a bit different, I might argue, because now it's more about something else. It's not about, hey, we're trying to be as equal as possible, or getting together then in a sense, because of course we're gonna have places that we're just not equal. Men and women are gonna have points where they're not equal. Strength is one of them. A man describes more strength than a woman. It is what it is. That's how it works. A woman going to bear a child, a man can't. I mean, those are just some of the things that you can clearly see in society. But nonetheless, hey, she has a feminist talking point.
Take this sheep clothing off.
Right, the wolf teeth going out. Mm-hmm. No,
he was somebody's work for 5 years.
We have been each other's companion for 5 years, mm-hmm. And yeah, I have spent the block for 5 years, and it's the truth. And
how you keep somebody for 5 years?
Why this interview was very, very important as a break it for Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, right? Why this broke Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is, number one, again, we have not been able to see her credentials at all. Just like I could have shown you guys my credentials and, Jeffre St. James, I could have shown you the credentials. We haven't seen any credentials for Dr. Bryant. In other words, we couldn't pull anything up. That's number one. Number two, being a person who works on relationships, for her to be in a dysfunctional relationship does not look good. It doesn't bode well. If that makes sense to you. It doesn't bode well, because what it now looks like is as if you're not really practicing the things that you're preaching. To say that you're in a 5-year relationship, I could understand maybe if she was in a relationship and it was, let's say it was pretty much for 6 months or, going on to a year. Then of course, it would, okay, it just started, it's pretty young. But for 5 years is a long time. And I think that's why people are going to question that versus, anything else. And we'll get to Mr. St. James so you can kind of see what his talking points are, just so you kind of get a balance between the two.
That's like for real. You can't keep nobody at a distance for 5 years. I ain't never done no.
I am not vitamin D deficient, so everything is good in that department.
No. He
wants a relationship.
She done kept him on the side until she figured out if it's something better. I see where this is going.
He just has some emotional maturity that he had to do. We're 9 years apart. He's 9 years younger than me.
All right. So again, when she mentioned these things about this gentleman that she states that she's dating, people are going to watch that, because remember, she was giving people that they were toxic. She was giving a Cam Newton that he was toxic by having so many, women, and he was playing around with these women. Then she told Nick Cannon that he was toxic and that he was playing with all of these women. So again, just like how it is that she can pressure these men, no, men were pushing back, and people even women were pushing back and saying, well, no, well, if you're going to pressure Cam Newton and you're going to pressure Nick Cannon about playing with, women, then how it is that you're not pressuring yourself about playing with this particular man? If it is that you and this man have been on and off for 5 years, I wonder if y'all see exactly where I'm going. And so that's why people had reasons to question her credentials. So they're questioning the advice she was giving, number one. And two, they're questioning, can we see any credentials at all, which we haven't been able to pull up.
They're a genius. Toxic is just what human beings can be, men or women. But when they're being toxic, they're not being masculine.
This is Jeffre St. James. This is the gentleman who earlier we pretty much identified with the credentials. This is who he is, and these are his talking points. And so the interviewer here, asked him the question about what are his points, what exactly is he trying to convey to his audience, because he tends to, I guess he speaks up for men, because hey, that's the thing these days. Someone is trying to speak up. You come to my channel and you'll notice a lot of times I'll speak up on behalf of men, but there are times that I'll check men and I'll say, hey, no, that couldn't be right for us. And I'll check myself, because hey, I'm in the same bracket. Don't feel like I'm above reproach than anyone else. And I think his talking points are quite similar.
When they're being toxic, they're not being feminine. So just even that concept alone is like, I'm not buying that narrative no more. I'm not buying that lexicon. I'm not using those words. Toxic masculinity and toxic femininity do not exist. They do not go hand in hand. Now, if you're asking why is it socially acceptable for people to point out men's bad behaviors versus why it is that it seems like we can't challenge women's bad behaviors, well, the starting point is because the extreme third and fourth wing feminists pretty much have been running the zeitgeist of society for quite a while in almost every major area of influence. School.
What is that, zeitgeist? What does that mean?
Actually, I'll use a better word. They are running they've pretty much built the mental matrix of what we're allowed to do in society, what we're allowed to say, what we're allowed to do, how we're allowed to feel, and even what we're allowed to believe in.
All right. So again, what he's mentioning is how the pendulum has actually swung. And I was talking to someone about this, and I've said the pendulum have swung, right? It's past an equilibrium point where, no one set has the upper hand, meaning no one gender has the upper hand. Women don't have the upper hand and men don't have the upper hand. It has passed that middle point, and it has now gone far toward where women are. I want you to follow me here, ladies, and I'll tell you exactly why I said this, because no, there are a lot of things that you're not allowed to say when it comes to a woman, because things will change for you. Even if I say a bunch of things, if you notice, the first thing people are going to say is, hey, it is that you don't like women. Even though I have a mother, even though I have a wife, even though I have a daughter, that's the first thing I'm going to say. You don't like women. Why? Because you're correcting a woman. So in other words, you can't correct a woman, essentially. And you've seen it. A lot of times we talk on the Country channel, and when we start talking certain ways, those are the talking points that come up. It's nothing new to our channel anyways.
So the third and fourth wing feminists have become so powerful and so effective. Whenever people point out things that women are doing that's wrong, they already have their go-to words to kind of shut you down, shame you. And if that's not enough, they'll go through the long list of things. You'll start recognizing the pattern. They'll start with calling you a misogynist. They'll start coming for your sexuality. Then they'll start coming for your relationship.
There you go. So you're going to have all of that coming out. And what you'll find is that you'll have people starting to attack, because this is exactly the way how they go about things. And as I've said before, it's not all women that you're having this happening to. What you're having is just a sect of feminists. I don't know the face of it, but what you have is a sect of feminists. And I showed you the other day with one of the other long form content, and I showed you how, the woman was cuddled. And I said, if that was a man, if that was a man that was actually on the internet saying, I'm homeless and I have a child, but I'm out here and I'm looking to date, you would have been calling him out. And rightfully so, I would have been calling him out. That's the funny thing. So I'm just showing you the imbalance where we are, and that's where his talking point is. But yet still, he's being questioned for this, even though Dr. Cheyenne Bryant just showed you just previously that she was just about doing the same thing on the woman end. And what? We can't question her?
You have one. Then they'll start trying to go in your past and see who you've been with and to see if they could potentially expose you. Then if that's not enough to shut you down, then they want to find out what your credentials are. Then they're going to try to destabilize you in terms of economically. And the hope and goal is until you believe what we believe and say what we say, we will do all we can to break you until you fall back in line of submission.
There you go. And that's what I believe exactly is going on. I also believe this position. This is what's going on. So it makes us now not able to hold people accountable. Not just women, but also men. We can't hold nobody accountable now because that's just the deal. But it's geared. Whatever this particular sect is, yes, it is geared toward, hey, best not say anything at all about women, or else. Don't say it, or else. And so you get that kind of thing in there. This is the talking point. But because he's making this talking point, let me guess, his credentials need to be checked.
Let me see the credentials.
So I'm holding that particular man, the public offender, accountable. Because you should know better. Like, you can decipher between truth and you know, and lies. You can decipher between that.
Their view is very simple. They've shifted from believing that the patriarchy was something that centered primarily around men. It was male centered. And they moved men out of the center. And instead of saying, you know what, maybe there's space in the center for both of us, they said, no. Now it's our turn. We want things to be centered around female viewpoints, female orientation, female styles of communication, and female understandings of how to view these things. When you live in a functional cultural matriarchy like that, whenever you point out anything that women are doing wrong, now the impulse is not they could actually be doing something wrong. The impulse is he hates women. There is toxic men. There is toxic women. And if and when you point it out, people try to trick you into saying, well, you can't say that because do you hate women? Or are you misogynist? Or so women aren't allowed to this? Or no. Either what you're doing is right or wrong. And your gender is secondary to what the primary issue is. And leave it at that. And if they won't reconcile that, if they won't accept that, you run as far as you can away from people like that.
I agree. Again, I agree. The talking point is as simple as possible. All we're asking for is equal levels of accountability. That's what he's asking for. But as you can see, the public offender, decided that, his credentials need to be checked for asking for, calling out bad behavior. That's simply what it is. That is simply what it is. Now, if you ask a man a bunch of questions about women and he's giving an opinion on it, how did that become something that is, a hating against women? How did that do that? When since that became that? When since the woman can't be corrected? And this is exactly why you have some of the content that you have out now, where women are able to do some things that they weren't doing before. They weren't doing some of the things that they were doing before. But hey, let's keep going.
And there are men and women that espouse that form of feminism where women are now central, where women are now held to a level where they're beyond reproach and can't be corrected. I'm basically shaking the paradigm and kind of messing with the algorithm a little bit in hopes to kind of get us to a much more balanced view.
Why is it that it's an issue when you call out bad behavior for females, but there's no issue at all when you call out bad behavior for males? And if you don't believe me, deadbeat dad. I keep saying deadbeat dad. Since the dawn of time, men, you know what? Let me go a little further. Black men have had to ward off the stigma of being a deadbeat dad. I've been a dad for a while, right? I've been a dad for a while. And the funny thing is, I've had to ward off the same stigmas of being a deadbeat father. Because the first thing people think of me as is, well, are you taking care of your kids? That's the first thing. They never said that to the mom, but that's the first stigma that I get. Regardless of anything at all, that's the first stigma that I actually get. But when a woman does something, then hey, well, maybe it is that she's too young. Well, maybe, somebody made her do it. Somebody. I showed it to y'all. Even one of the contents today, even when Brittany exploded on her father and her mother, notice she issued all the blames out on everyone else except herself. And that's all we're asking. All we're asking, and all Jeffre is asking, Jeffre St. James, why can't we call out both sides? There are a lot of bad actors out there, guys. I tell y'all all the time, there are a lot of bad actors out there. You understand? But hey, at least now you know.
Let me see the credentials.
He's credentialed. You can see his credentials. I still don't see the credentials for the doctor. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying she's not a doctor. I'm just saying we don't see the credentials. There are things you can look up. There are things you can know. I've shown you mine. But hey, let me know what y'all think of this piece of content. This is us. This is exactly where we are in the world today. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Talk to y'all soon.